The Duel of Honor. The sky above Kerith was dark purple, glowing with twin moons that looked like eyes watching every move. In the middle of the ancient arena, two figures faced each other, one human, one alien. The crowd roared, their voices echoing through the stone walls. For them, this was not only a duel of strength, but a duel of destiny. Aria Vale stood still, her hands gripping the hilt of her blade. She was young, only 20, but her heart was calm like frozen glass. Her opponent, Kael of the Thorn clan, was twice her size, his armor made of black scales that shimmered with red energy. He had never lost a duel, and today he was fighting not for pride but for power. If he won, humans would be forced to leave Kerith forever. If Aria won, her people would finally be free to live among the stars without fear. From the viewing stand, her mentor, Captain Rin, spoke through the comm link in her ear. "Remember the runes, Aria? They are older than any world," he said. His voice calm but heavy. She nodded slowly, feeling the faint hum of energy coming from her sword. It was an old weapon, older than any human artifact, found deep inside a crashed starship buried under Kerith's deserts. No one knew who made it, only that strange markings, runes, were carved into its blade. The arena went silent when the gong sounded. Kael took one step forward, the ground shaking beneath his feet. "You should have stayed in the mines, little human," he growled. His eyes burning red, Aria didn't answer. She simply raised her blade. The light around her began to bend slightly. As if the air itself was watching her move, Kael attacked first, his giant blade cutting through the air with a sharp hiss. Aria dodged and rolled, sparks flying as her sword met his. Every strike was like thunder, every movement filled with danger. The crowd gasped each time metal met metal, their cheers turning into a wild chant. "Thorn Clan! Thorn Clan!" they shouted, shaking the air with their voices. But Aria was faster. She moved with strange precision. Almost like something was guiding her, Kael swung his sword again and again. But she slipped past every attack. Then, in a sudden move, she jumped forward and slashed across his palm. The blade touched his skin lightly, just a scratch. But that was enough. The runes on her sword exploded with light. Blue energy flowed across the metal like liquid fire. The sound it made was not just a hum, it was a whisper. Ancient and alive, Kael froze, his eyes wide with shock. He dropped his weapon and looked at his bleeding hand. The blue light from the runes spread to him, moving up his arm like veins of flame. He gasped and fell to one knee. The arena went silent again, then, one by one, the members of the Thorn clan and proud warriors and elders fell to their knees too. Their glowing eyes dimmed in respect, their heads bowed to Aria. No one understood what was happening, not even Aria herself. She looked down at her sword, still glowing. Her heart pounded as strange symbols appeared in the air above it. The same runes, but now alive, moving, forming patterns like words. Captain Rin's voice came through her ear again, but this time it was shaking. "Aria, step back, do not move," he said. She didn't listen. She took one slow step forward. The blue light spread across the arena floor, creating a circle beneath her feet. Kael lifted his head weakly, his voice trembling. "The blade of the first kings," he whispered. "You are one of them?" Aria blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" she asked. But Kael only bowed lower. Pressing his forehead to the ground around them, the Thorn clan began to chant in their old tongue. Their voices deep and rhythmic, even the air seemed to vibrate with power. From the stands, Rin stood in disbelief. He had studied the old myths, stories about the first kings, beings who ruled before the galaxy had borders. They had vanished long ago, leaving only relics behind, and now, one of those relics was glowing in Aria's hands. Responding to her touch, Aria's breathing grew faster. She wanted to drop the sword, but it felt like it was a part of her body now. The light from the blade reflected in her eyes. In that reflection, for a brief second, she saw something, a shadow standing behind her. Tall and glowing, watching her silently, the crowd didn't cheer anymore. They only watched, silent and afraid. Kael spoke again, his voice echoing through the still air. "All clans shall kneel before the heir of the runes," he said, and with those words, the prophecy that had slept for thousands of years began to awaken. Aria stood frozen, her sword humming softly. She looked up toward the stars, wondering what she had just started. Her mentor's voice came again, low and fearful. "Aria, what have you done?" The hidden bloodline. The sun of Kareth rose slowly, its orange light touching the ruins of the arena where everything had changed. Aria Vale sat on the edge of her bunk inside the human outpost, her sword lying beside her, still wrapped in cloth. She had not slept all night every time she closed her eyes. She saw the blue runes burning in the dark. Her mentor, Captain Rin, stood near the window, his face pale and serious. "You need to understand, Aria," he said. "That was no simple blade." Aria looked up, her voice quiet. "Then what is it?" Rin sighed, walking closer. "We searched our entire history and nothing matches those runes," he said. "But the alien scholars from the Thorn clan, they know something." He paused. "They called it the Blade of the First Kings," Aria frowned. "First Kings," she repeated. "That sounds like a myth." Rin shook his head slowly. "In every myth there is a seed of truth," he said. "The first kings were said to be rulers from before recorded time, beings who shaped the early worlds." Aria blinked, trying to understand. "And they were human?" she asked. Rin hesitated. "Some say they were, or at least part human," before Aria could ask more. The door slid open. Kael of the Thorn clan entered, his injured hand wrapped in glowing bandages. He no longer looked like her enemy, but like someone standing on sacred ground. He bowed slightly before speaking. "The runes answered to you, not me," he said. "That means you are not a stranger to them." Aria stared at him. "I'm human," she said. "I'm not one of your gods." Kael shook his head. "The blood remembers even when the mind forgets," he said, his deep voice calm. "You carry the mark of the old bloodline." Rin crossed his arms. "Enough riddles," he said. "What do these runes want?" Kael turned to him. "They want balance," he said. "The clans were made by the first kings to keep order. But when they disappeared, we lost the light." He pointed at Aria. Now that light has returned, Aria stood, nervous but curious. "Why me?" she asked. "I don't even know who my parents were. I grew up in an orphan base on Mars." Kael's eyes glowed faintly. "Then maybe your blood was hidden for this very reason," he said. That evening, Aria and Rin were invited to the temple of the Thorn clan. Inside, the walls were covered with carvings of stars, battles, and strange beings holding glowing swords. Aria's blade was placed on a stone altar, and a group of alien scholars began to chant. The runes on the sword started to shine again, filling the room with blue light. Symbols appeared in the air, forming a circle around Aria. She could read none of it, but somehow, deep inside, she understood every word. A voice echoed inside her mind, calm but powerful. "Child of the lost line." "The stars remember you," Aria gasped. Clutching her head, the scholars stopped chanting. Staring in awe, one of them whispered, "The blade speaks to her." Rin ran forward, catching Aria before she fell. "What did it say?" he asked quickly. Aria's lips trembled. "It called me." "The child of the lost line," she said. Outside, a storm gathered above the temple, lightning flashing blue across the sky. Kael stepped forward, kneeling before her. "My clan will follow you," he said, "whether you wish it or not. The old power has chosen you, but not everyone agreed across the galaxy." The Galactic Council received the message of what happened on Kareth. A human girl had awakened an ancient weapon, one that could control the old clans in their meeting chambers. Leaders from 100 worlds gathered. "If this girl truly holds the power of the first kings," one of them said, "she could rule us all," another voice replied coldly. "Then she must be stopped." That night, a silent ship entered Kareth's orbit. Inside were assassins sent by the Council, dressed in black armor that absorbed light. Their mission was simple: find Aria Vale and end her before she could rise. Meanwhile, Aria sat alone in her quarters. Staring at the blade glowing beside her bed, she felt its hum deep inside her chest. "Almost like a heartbeat," she whispered softly. "What are you trying to tell me?" The runes on the blade shimmered, showing her an image, a star map. Shifting and alive, she saw a planet at its center, a place she had never seen before. The name burned into her mind. Ilarion. Suddenly the lights flickered. Rin's voice came through the comm link, urgent and afraid. "Aria, get down! We're under attack!" The door burst open. Two assassins entering with energy blades. Aria grabbed her sword on instinct. Before she could swing, the blade moved on its own, floating in the air, glowing brighter than ever. The assassins froze as the blue light spread. Turning their weapons into dust, the sword spoke again in her mind. They fear what they do not understand. When the light faded, the assassins were gone, vanished without a trace. Rin ran into the room seconds later. Breathing hard. "What happened?" he shouted. Aria looked at him, still shaking. "It protected me," she whispered. "It's alive." Rin stared at the sword, his face pale. "Aria," he said slowly, "you need to leave Kareth now before they send more." She nodded, gripping the sword tight. Somewhere deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. The runes pulsed softly, as if agreeing with her, and outside, the twin moons of Kareth glowed brighter, as if watching the birth of something powerful, something ancient, something the galaxy had not seen in 1,000 years. The awakening war. The night sky burned with light as ships rose from Kareth's surface. Aria Vale stood on the deck of the small transport ship Eclipse, her sword glowing faintly beside her. The stars stretched out like a sea of cold fire, but somewhere among them, danger waited. The Galactic Council had declared her a threat. Every planet loyal to the Council was now hunting her. But others, hearing of the duel and the runes, had begun to whisper her name with hope. Captain Rin walked to her side, his face tired but proud. "You've started something no one can stop now," he said quietly. Aria looked out the window, her reflection shimmering in the glass. "I never wanted war," she said. "I just wanted freedom." Rin nodded slowly. "Freedom always comes with a price," he said. "Now the whole galaxy knows who you are." They traveled through hyperspace, heading toward the planet Ilarion, the same world that the runes had shown Aria in her vision. When they arrived, they found a dead world. Silent, covered in silver sand and ancient ruins. The cities were broken, but the air still hummed with energy. As they stepped out, the sword in Aria's hand began to glow brighter, guiding her toward a massive stone gate. Inside the gate was a chamber filled with floating symbols. As Aria entered, the runes lit up one by one. Forming a circle around her, a voice spoke from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You have awakened the legacy of the first kings," it said. Aria fell to her knees, clutching the sword. "Who are you?" she whispered. The voice answered, "I am the memory of those who came before, and now I live in you." A beam of light shot into her chest, filling her with warmth and pain. Flashes of memory rushed through her mind. Ancient battles, worlds being formed, humans standing beside alien kings. She saw her ancestors, humans who had once ruled not through fear, but through unity. When the light faded, she was no longer just Aria Vale. She was the heir of the runes, the last voice of the first kings. Rin stepped closer, his eyes wide. "What happened to you?" he asked. Aria looked up slowly, her eyes glowing faint blue. "I remember everything," she said softly. "The first kings were not gods. They were guardians, protectors of balance, and now I must do the same." But time was running out. Outside the ruins, alarms echoed. A fleet of council warships had found them. Hundreds of ships filled the sky. Their weapons locked on Ilarion. Kael and his warriors stood ready, their armor shining under the cold light. "This is the moment," Kael said. "Let the clans rise once more." Aria stepped forward, her sword raised high. The runes flared, sending a wave of blue energy across the battlefield. The sand lifted into the air, forming glowing shields around their forces. The council's ships opened fire, but their beams vanished against the light. Rin stared in awe. She's controlling the planet, he whispered. The sword answered in Aria's mind. The first kings shaped worlds with thought. You can too. She closed her eyes, feeling the power surge through her veins. The ground shook, and the ruins of Ilarion began to rise, turning into massive towers of energy. The alien clans knelt as they watched their world come alive again. Kael shouted to his warriors, "For the Rune Queen!" And they charged into battle. Aria opened her eyes, glowing with blue fire. "End this without hate," she said. "We fight for peace." The battle lasted hours, the sky burning with fire and light. Every strike of Aria's blade tore through ships but left no death, only silence. Weapons stopped working, engines froze mid-air, and entire fleets stood still, trapped in the glowing net of energy spreading from her sword. The Council's commander tried to resist, sending orders to destroy her, but his ship's controls turned to light and faded. He fell to his knees, whispering, "Impossible." Aria floated above the battlefield, her sword blazing brighter than any star. Her voice echoed through every ship, every mind, every heart. "War ends today," she said. "The galaxy belongs to all, not to rulers or bloodlines, but to those who live." Her words carried not just sound, but power. The soldiers below dropped their weapons, not out of fear, but peace. When the last shot faded, the silence was deep. Ilarion glowed softly. Restored by her light, Kael approached her, his voice full of awe. "You have done what no one ever could," he said. Aria smiled faintly, though her eyes were tired. "The war is over, but peace is fragile," she said. "Promise me it will last." Kael nodded, placing his hand on his chest. "You have my word, Rune Queen." Rin stepped beside her, looking at the horizon. "What will you do now?" he asked. Aria looked up at the stars that stretched forever. "The blade showed me more," she said. "There are other worlds that need light, other wars that need ending." Rin smiled sadly. "Then I guess our journey isn't over," he said. The sword pulsed gently, almost like it agreed. As the first dawn rose over Ilarion, Aria walked toward the edge of the tower. The wind lifting her hair, she whispered softly, "The blood that divides us also binds us." Her voice echoed through the stars, carried on the hum of the runes, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt peace. But far beyond the edge of known space, in the dark void, something ancient stirred. Eyes of gold opened in the darkness, watching the new Rune Queen, and a voice whispered, "The cycle begins again." The story of Aria Vale had only just begun.